excited for today's video because I want to help moms who are looking for readers or read-alouds for their 4th grade boys. I have 3 boys. The last one is now in 4th grade. So we've done this 3 times now, and these ones are tried and true hits in our family, whether I've read them out loud or they've read them to themselves. I'm gonna get right into it. We're gonna talk about robotics, we're gonna talk about animals, we're gonna talk about just adventure. So stick around and see which of these books might be best for your boy or your child, whether you are looking for your boy like this video is titled for, or if you're looking for just 4th grade readers in general. The first one is The Wild Robot and The Wild Robot Escapes. I actually listened to both of these books with my boys, so we listened to them, but they were so good that we bought them in person because we wanted to be able to reread them because they are really interesting stories. I think it's really relevant to our children right now just because robots are up and coming. I feel like there's going to be more and more robots in the coming years, and AI and all of that. In case you're new to the story, Roz is a robot who's on an island. All the other robots are broken and she's the only one who's functioning. So the story is about her and how she survives on the island. And of course, in this story, she is more human than robotic. And it's just kind of a cute little story. And then in the sequel, she is on a different adventure. And I won't give it away by saying what she's doing in the second one. Treasure Hunters, my oldest son read to himself, and I read it to my younger 3 kids. If you're a conservative homeschool mom like me, there's topics to discuss. There's some insulting and making fun of some of the other characters, some of the main characters in the book, in fact. And it's a little bit more snarky and modern day language than some of the other books on my list. However, I found it as an opportunity to read to my kids, to talk about those things, to talk about bullying, all of the things that I feel like are relevant and that came up in the book. And then there's things that are good, like sibling bonding and sibling rivalry, where we can talk about both of those things. So definitely like a little bit more of a modern book. I don't know that I would say it had anything bad in it. It just is, for me at least, it was more of like things we would talk about, things we would discuss, and read a little bit more like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where it's like a little bit easier sentences, shorter sentences, and a little snarky in some places, right? Again, I don't think books should just be about good kids who don't ever get into trouble and nothing bad ever happens and they never make any wrong decisions. So in that way also, I think that a book where they do things that you're just like, no, why did you do that, isn't bad because it gives you an opportunity to talk to your children about it, which is a big reason I read out loud to my kids. The next series is Hank the Cowdog. I've really enjoyed this series. It's about Hank, who is the head of ranch security, and his little sidekick Drover. And they are really funny. They just have many, many adventures. There's like at least 80 books in this series, and I just have a variety of them in person. And then we've also listened to several on Audible. It's set in Texas in good series fashion. There's a theme to the books, right? Each one has its own little theme, and they're very short, as you can see. There's always a lesson to be learned. There's always singing and just really good storytelling. A side note to all of that, though, is Matthew McConaughey actually did a podcast where he read the part of Hank the Cowdog. And there's only 1 season, which I was super disappointed about, but that's a really fun if you like Matthew McConaughey and the way that he talks and tells his stories. That's just a good, fun little side note about Hank the Cowdog, which is just a fun story told from the perspective of a dog. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't have a physical copy. They're in my boys' rooms, but if you've never read it, I'm sure you've seen it. Like, it's been around for 20 years. I would recommend as a parent reading it and seeing, do you like it? Do you think it's funny? Does it annoy you? Is this what you want your kids reading? It's not for everyone. Again, it's similar to Treasure Hunters in that it's very simple writing. Each book has its own little plot that happens that is like, oh no, this happened, such a bummer. The main character gets into so many different shenanigans and you're just like, how does this many things go wrong? It doesn't really happen like that, but it's just a fun little story. I read all of these books actually that I'm showing you because it's important to me to know the kids are reading and to make sure that I have a handle on what's going on. So that's Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The next one is The Hardy Boys. Now, The Hardy Boys are tried and true classics, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about them in case you've already heard of them or you've already read them, but there's a lot of books in the series. They're very, very simple, fast-paced. There's a mystery, the boys are gonna solve it. You know, that's gonna happen. So the good thing is they're predictable, the bad thing is they're predictable. And as a mom, reading them by the 4th one or so, I was a little bit like, okay, let's try to mix it up a little. Like, let's have a plot twist, but it's okay. I still like them. I love the old language. I love that the boys have good morals, good values, and they're always looking out for each other. They have good relationships with their friends. They can like problem solve, and all of that I think is really good. And so I still read them out loud to my children because I think it's good for them. But this is a great reader for boys. If they want to read on their own, I would say they're such a good choice. The Hardy Boys, you're not gonna go wrong, at least in my opinion. They're just really good quality books. The next one is Journey to the Center of the Earth, which we listened to. It was narrated by Tim Curry. If you know, you know. He's got quite the good voice for narrating, and that made it extra enjoyable for me. I hope for my kids too, but I know for me it was like extra fun just because I could picture him reading it and everything. That story was harder to get into for my 11-year-old because he's got an accent, an English accent, and the language it's written in is like a little older English. So when you combined his voice with the older English, it kind of was hard. The first couple chapters were a little rocky where my son was like, I don't quite know what's happening. But by like a quarter or the third of the way through, he was really into it. Also, he never stopped wanting to listen, even though he was like having a harder time. We would just pause and I'd be like, do you understand what's happening right now? And so we did that to get through the first little bit. He got used to the language, he got used to the verbiage, and he got used to the way that Tim Curry was reading it. We really enjoyed the book as a whole because of that. So Journey to the Center of the Earth, I think, is one of those forgotten classics. There's the movie, but that's not the same as the book. I did really enjoy the book, and experiencing it again, I think actually when you're reading the book, or you're listening to it in this case, I felt myself be really elated when they were finding the unique animals and seeing the new creatures and the new trees and plants and stuff. And that was really fun to me. So I do recommend that one as well. If you've got a child, either you want them to hear the old classics or you think that they would enjoy that aspect of it. They would enjoy it despite some of the old English language that was being spoken in. The next three are all from Usborne, and they're all very fast-paced, and they are very plot-driven, where it's just one adventure after the next. You're like, I don't think I would have this many life and death experiences in my lifetime, let alone in these 3 pages I just read, but that's okay because I think it does make it really fun, fast-paced, and interesting for boys, especially if you have boys that are very adventurous and want to get out and explore. Maybe they have a hard time sitting still. These books are great for that because it's like every page is a page turner for sure. So we've got, and I just grabbed the first one in the series of each one of these. We have the whole series in all of them, but the Extreme Adventure series, the Impossible Quest series, and the Mapmaker Chronicle series. And all of these are just, the main character is a boy and he is on an adventure. I just don't feel like I need to go into it much more than that because they all definitely have a similar style. The Extreme Adventure one is the most fast-paced, and probably the 3rd, 4th grader could read it pretty easily on their own. It's also very short, so it doesn't feel like a huge chunk. A lot of these books are not what I would be reading if it was just me on my Sunday afternoon. I'm sitting there reading a book. I am reading books out loud to my children because I know it's good for them. I know it's good for our relationship. I know it's good for character building. I know it's good for empathy. I know it's good for their education, just their academics. Reading it out loud helps in so many ways. So I would encourage you as parents, yes, have them read some of these on their own, but also take the time to read them. These books are for them and what I think they'll like, and I hope that you can enjoy them too and enjoy the fact that you're reading something to your children that is going to help them grow and that can help you to form a deeper bond with them. The next one is Gentle Ben by Walt Morey. Now, Gentle Ben is an older book, and it's certainly an older writing style, more like Hardy Boys, where there's just a little bit more professional language, even, I would say, more proper language than some of the newer books where they're using slang and the sentences are really short and things like that. So I read it out loud to my kids, and we really enjoyed the story about the little boy who befriends the bear in his hometown in Alaska. It's chained up in a shop or a shed down the road, and he befriends it and ends up taking care of it. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, so much fun, such a good time. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle has a cure for everything, and they're quite funny, and all of them have a good story. Like, each chapter is its own story where she is finding a cure for something, like the picky eater cure or the messy room cure. Let me see if I can find some more. The bad table manners cure. the never want to go to schooler. Okay, so just to give you some ideas, like they're pretty funny. The won't pick up toys cure, the selfishness cure. So each one is its own little story, and all of them know each other. They're all friends, and so you get to meet these different children, and then you hear about how they get their cure, right? Each one has a story. So that's been really fun. Detectives and Togas I read actually pretty recently. We read it last year during our school year. It's the third time I have read this book, and it is really enjoyable. It's about a group of boys. Something bad happens and they're trying to solve the mystery of what happens. I will say that I couldn't remember the very end of this book when I was reading it this last time. The mystery hits every time. And I did think it was a good story. There's just a lot of history that's incorporated in the story. I love when books can do that. And it's done in a way that's interesting and engaging to the kids. So I read this out loud to my 3 youngest, and it definitely talks about the Roman hierarchy and different things around that topic, which I just love when we can incorporate real history into fun detective stories. This one's called Owls in the Family. It's a really sweet little story. It's super short, and we read it for school. It's set in Canada. It's about a little boy who finds an owl, and he ends up like taking the owl, and he has an in-home owl rescue going on. And he has just like different scenarios, like different things that happen. If you have a boy that likes animals and caring for animals, he'd probably really enjoy this. Not the kind of thing that would happen nowadays, I don't think, very well, just because he has a great horned owl in his house that's unique. But it is based on a true story, which made it all the more interesting. Homer Price. Now, the first time I read Homer Price, I was probably mid-20s, and I wasn't really into it. I remember thinking, this book is really boring. Why am I reading this? And as I got older, I enjoyed it more and more. Now it's actually one of my favorite books to read to the kids for school. I already liked Robert McCloskey from Make Way for Ducklings, which is a really popular kids book that I grew up reading and actually own, I think, multiple copies of now because it's very sentimental. But this story with Homer Price and all the things that he does, in case you don't know, it's about a boy. Each chapter feels like a short story. I think it's this right here. It's like what the book is even remembered for is the donuts, where they lose a ring in the donuts and then they have to find it and they have to bake hundreds of donuts. Next one that can be really fun for boys is Holes. I didn't want to dig it out. It's in my school curriculum, and I just didn't want to like pull it out and away from like its family of school books because I keep everything really organized. But Holes, you probably know, is a really popular movie, but it actually was a book first. I didn't know it was a book until it came in my school curriculum a few years back, and we read it, we loved it. Now I just read it for fun sometimes, but it's packed away right now. I think we're reading it next year for school, so then after that I can stay out. But if you've never read it, it's about Stanley Yelnats, who is just always having terrible luck. Like, it's just like perpetual bad luck. And essentially he breaks the curse of his family because it wasn't his fault. I loved that Holes has some bigger topics that I could discuss at a kid's level. And so that was one of the big draws to me. Holes was really good for giving me a bridge in which to talk about some of those topics. You want to talk about reading a book for your kids that's not for you. I'm gonna say this one right here. I did not pick this up at Goodwill because I love Minecraft, okay? I picked it up because my kids love Minecraft, and I thought this will probably be interesting to them, and we're in summer, which was very convenient so that I could read it to them, not during the school year when we're already trying to get through all the books we have for school. We are actually only about a quarter of the way through the book, so I can't fully recommend it, but I think it's fine. I think it's good so far. It's also written by the author of the World War Z book, and my oldest son really enjoyed the World War Z book, so I knew that the writing was probably at least going to be good. Like, the writing would be good. And I was right, the writing is good. And actually the story has been fun and the boys are laughing. I think one of the things that I've noticed when I was actually like planning this video, I realized that so many of these books are humorous. I didn't realize what an emphasis there was on humor in kids' books until I started thinking about it. And I was like, oh, that is actually a huge part of reading kids' books. Most of the time, they're funny. I mean, not the whole time, and certainly not past middle grade. I'm saying they're not all funny, but I'm just saying I noticed, at least in our favorites, there is humor incorporated, and sometimes a lot of humor. The emphasis is definitely on making the kids laugh and have a good time. And that has been true for Minecraft as well, where they're just like chuckling and a couple times getting big laughs out of them from this Minecraft and the Minecraft story. So I would, so far at least, recommend this one as well, especially if you have a Minecraft lover in your family they would probably enjoy reading about this person who's like human and lands up in the Minecraft world, and then they gotta figure everything out, which is what's happening in the story. And I'm gonna end it off with classics, which is the Redwall series. If you have a child that likes fantasy and woodland creatures and right and wrong and the good guy always wins, bad things happen, but the good guy always wins in the end, the Redwall series is so fun. I have been reading them out loud. I read them as a child, and then I read them out loud to my children. And we've also listened to them because they have audio versions and they have a whole full cast of characters. So those are very fun to listen to because they've got different voices for the different animals, and that's entertaining and makes it a little bit more fun. This is the only book out of all of these books that I have sat down and read or listened to on my own for fun in the last 20 years. I would say these ones are really good, similar to the Green Ember. If you have read those ones, I would compare them. I like Redwall better, but it might just be because I grew up with the characters of Redwall, so they feel more real to me than the characters of the Green Ember series. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I put out more videos. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again really soon.